Hey there, my name is Shane Craddock, and this is the Inner Edge podcast, where I share a different take on how to lead and live a sustainable, high performance life. Over the course of different episodes, I'm going to challenge the belief that tension, stress, and struggle are essential to success and creativity. My experience is that there's an easier way, there's a better way, and indeed there's an essential way that we need to explore for the times that we live in. So let's go ahead, let's jump in and explore. Hi there, you're very welcome to today's episode with me, Shane Craddock. This is The Inner Edge. And today we're going to talk about a certain type of thinking that often goes unseen, but is critically important. And I've only just come up with this phrase myself in the last week, tight thinking. And the reason I came up with the phrase was because I was holding an event with a group of business owners and CEOs a few days ago. And at the venue, the hotel, I'd organized, we usually meet up for dinner the night before. And then the day after, we have kind of a full day of stepping out to look at people's business and life and through the context of their mind and what's going on inside and their state. But before the dinner, we had organized for kind of a fun activity. There was a golf range at the hotel and a very good golf professional, a woman. And we'd organized through the hotel to kind of have about an hour and 50 minutes with this professional where we'd use the golf simulator and also we'd have some shots on the golf range. And it was kind of done in a fun way so that even if you had no knowledge of golf, you could still do something. Now, part of the activity was where the professional got everybody to take some shots and then she would give some tips on what to improve. What I really liked about her approach was that she was very focused on just a few principles, very simple approach. And what she was saying was that she would always just look for these few simple principles. And once you got those right, you'd be inclined to hit a good shot. And I like that because for me, I just think if you're very focused on the principles of anything, whether it's sport or life or business, leadership, and you get clear on the principles, it's very easy then to make significant improvements by just adjusting and improving those principles, or at least working to the principles. Now, I haven't played golf for maybe 20 years. I'm starting to take it back up. And so I used to play, I had a habit of, the swing and taking shots from younger to my teens and early 20s. And so I like it's in there, but I said, okay, I'll take a few shots and the professional watched me. And she just looked at me and then she just said very simply, you're gripping the club too tightly, Shane. Now, until she said that, if you had said to me, you're gripping the club too tightly, I would have said, what are you talking about? I just grip it the way I normally grip it. I had no awareness of how tightly I was gripping the club. And so she just showed me something that has evolved into what you're listening now, which is tight thinking as a metaphor for maybe loosening the way that we hold on to things, the way we look at things. And I want to explain a little bit more about that, explore that today. Because from my point of view, tight thinking undermines your performance, your clarity, and your state of mind. Now, going back to the golfer and her comment to me that I was gripping the club too tightly, she just got me to grip the club and then she said, and just move your arms back just slowly in slow motion as as if you're swinging really to take a shot. So I did that and she just made me observe that my arms were also tightening more as I was going back because my grip was tight. So it rippled into my arms, which brought in tension, which then moved across other areas of my body. And she was just making the point that as the tension was coming into my body, through my hands, into my arms, and across my body, that I wouldn't be able to hit the ball effectively or as effectively. And she just said, look, just for the fun of it, just focus on keeping your grip loose and just see what happens. And so for the next 10 or 12 shots, I just focused on a loose grip and it was amazing. I have to say it was amazing. I just hit the ball so much better. It felt so much better. And it was more consistent. The golf is all about consistency. And that's another, it does require a huge amount of practice, both physically and mentally, to kind of get really, really good at golf. But it really, really stuck with me. It really struck a chord. And I was thinking about it later that night. I was reflecting on the next day. And I was sharing it with the group around, I just think that tight thinking, it comes into our thinking. And there's tightness in our thinking. And the less tightness that we have in our thinking, actually, just like hitting the ball better in golf, the better we can hit the ball in life, the better we can perform in whatever we are doing, whether that's sport or a conversation or business or meeting or just thinking. And I think that there's clues to some of this in the English language where the expression, oh, they're uptight or I feel uptight, as in we know instinctively that this is there, that we can be tight in ourselves. Now it can be subtle and we can almost, like me, get maybe used to doing something a certain way. You don't even notice the tightness until maybe somebody points it out and says, hey, you're a bit uptight or a bit stressed. And I think any thinking that makes you tight is not going to be good for performance. Now, so what kind of thinking makes you tight? Well, I think anything that actually results in you feeling pressure, tension, stress, anxiety, or any form of maybe just making you feel insecure. And it's funny because I've worked for over 23, 24 years with high performers in different contexts. And my observation is that high performers can succeed despite being very stressed or despite being very tight. So it doesn't stop you succeeding. But there are consequences to being uptight. So you can be very reactive. You can be very frustrated and angry. You can cause problems for other people. You can, because of those frustrations, not enjoy life as much. You can find it difficult to relax. In a physical context, you can create problems for yourself like ulcers or other ailments because of tightness. And yeah, I think even just the ability to enjoy your success is severely compromised by an unseen habit of tight thinking. So I think your ability to relax your mental grip is an important skill and it's very possible. But you first have to identify that it might be there and that it's an issue, that you might have a problem with it. Because nobody had ever said to me before, and not that I've had many lessons, mind you, but nobody ever said, hey, your grip is too tight in golf. And in the same way, I think maybe nobody's ever said to you, hey, maybe in certain contexts, your mental grip can be too tight. So I'm going to point that out to you today and say that is an issue. Now, tightness can emerge, for example, maybe you're too attached to an outcome. And if it's not going the way that you want, you will feel stress from tightness, which brings in tension. Maybe you're resisting your reality. Maybe there's things going on in your circumstances that you don't like, you don't want. That will bring in tightness. Or maybe something has happened and you've made assumptions on the back of that event that perhaps are causing major stress or tightness for you, but maybe they're not true at all. But you're believing a story that's causing real tension and tightness for you. So the solution to it, the solution to tight thinking is to loosen your thinking in the same way that you just, like, if someone said, well, loosen your grip on a golf club, how would you do it? Well, you just loosen it. It doesn't require like a huge amount of training. You just loosen your grip. In the same way with your thinking, it's that simple. It's like, okay, well, hang on. Can I just let these thoughts go? Because there's all sorts of thoughts flying around your head at the moment today and over the course of the week. There will be. Sometimes a lot of those are to do with stories that we're telling ourselves. And I wonder, could you experiment with just letting them go and to stop stewing on things, perhaps? Maybe distract yourself from thoughts that are not particularly giving you good vibes, good feelings. Maybe you could stop giving attention to thoughts that are causing tightness, tension. So just maybe observe yourself, because there's an awareness element to this, is that can you be aware, well, where might I be feeling tense or tight or any of those negative emotions? And could I experiment with just loosely holding those thoughts and maybe letting them go? And I think this is it's part of what I mean within the context of this podcast when I talk about, talking about a more effortless way to live and to work and to lead. This is a key element around that, is that it's the awareness of being able to see where your grip is tight mentally. And once you see it and you understand its relevance, well, then it's actually quite easy just to loosen it. But if you don't see it or understand its relevance, you kind of go, what are you talking about? But when you see it, you don't need any techniques. That's the beauty of it. That's what I really find interesting about understanding how we work from the inside out, the inner game. Because once you see it, then you can just let it go. It's much easier to just let it go, get loose. Now, they'd say, I don't know if you've ever heard the expression that tension is the enemy in golf, but it's also the enemy in any sport. And I think it's the enemy in business. And I think tension is the enemy probably in any context, communication, relationships, no doubt about it. Tension in you usually will breed problems because it'll compromise your ability to perform, to communicate, to speak, to listen. And then usually it also ripples into other people, tension. So it's not that you can't perform when you're tense or you have tight thinking. You can, especially if you're very skilled. But it is wearing on you and it will take its toll on you over time. And I just don't see it as a sustainable way to bring out your best all the time. But there's no doubt about it. Great people will do great things, even despite stress or tension. But again, if you want to have a better, more enjoyable life, more sustainable one perhaps, in terms of performance and clarity and state, well, then maybe consider what I'm saying about tight thinking. So, where might you be thinking tightly? And if you're looking for clues, just take out maybe a pen and a bit of paper or pad, an iPad even, and just write down some of the key areas of your life: money, health, time, work, people, and just look at where might you be feeling negative emotions, where are you tight, where is there stress, and look at what you're thinking about a situation or even about people, and maybe just consider, maybe I'm just thinking too tightly here, and maybe just experiment with loosening your thinking, what you're seeing, maybe challenging whether it's true, just letting it go, because I think my guess is that if you openly reflect on the key areas of your life, you will find tight thinking in some of those areas because that's just the way it is as a human. And it might be to do with people, as I say, or circumstances. But I think it's worth saying that thinking more loosely, without a doubt, it allows us to think at a higher level. And when you're thinking loosely, you also feel better. You know, thoughts aren't sticking to you, problems don't stick to you. You're kind of more inclined to go into that flow type of zone, flow mood, flow state. You're definitely more creative when thoughts aren't tight, and your mood then is naturally better. And when you've got a better mood, better state, kind of everything goes better. Your outlook, your clarity, your energy, you're a better version of you. So there is a link to tight thinking and your mood and the ripple effect from that. So maybe you could just consider that today and this week as an experiment in awareness, to be more aware of where you're thinking and what it's like, whether it's loose or whether it's tight. Because there's no doubt about it, thinking loosely is definitely the key to a better you in every context. That's it for this week. Ciao for now.